Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mary Ann Valaconis from State Ed, and we have in our office here John Campano and Joanne Sean, and you can see us on the video cam, and all three of us will be working with you this year to help you with your technology plan, the 2018-2021 technology plan. So just so you get to know all three of us, and you'll have our contact information as part of this webinar. What we're going to do today is go through the changes in the plan and talk about how you will be submitting your plan and how we will work with you, et cetera. And what I would like to do is, if you have, right now we show Anne-Marie, Alex, Chris, and Edward, and we did have Tim Moon, I thought, but I don't see him on the list.
He's still there.
Is he there? Oh, okay. So if there's anyone else on the call, like in a group setting, if you would send me the names of any participants in the chat, that way we'll know the names of everyone who attended today. That would be really helpful. But if you don't have a group setting and everyone who's here is logged in under your own name, then we'll have a record that you attended. And this session is being recorded, and it will be posted on a resources page that will be specific to the Big 5 schools, and only you will have access to that page. So the recording will be on that page. So we will make sure that you have the URL to that page as part of this webinar today. I'm going to share my screen so we can go through the PowerPoint. And let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what we're going to be working through today. The point of this webinar is to familiarize you with the new 2018-21 Instructional Technology Plan, its origins, its purpose, and its functionality. We do want to spend a good portion of this time responding to your questions, and you're all on mute, so you can either communicate via the chat feature, and you'll be sending your chat to all participants, or if you are able to, you can unmute your phone line and ask a question at any time. We encourage you to ask questions as they arise. As I know, when I'm a trainee in a session, sometimes if I have to wait to ask a question, by the time I'm allowed to ask that question, I don't even remember what it was. So please feel free to ask a question at any time throughout the webinar. The documentation, if you take a look at the agenda, I just introduced ourselves, and we're going to talk a little bit about the purpose and process of the plan. And the documentation review that we're going to talk about will happen just prior to visiting actually going online into the portal. So the purpose of that will be to make you aware of the many resources that are available to support you during the planning process. So I did send you some of these documents ahead of time, so I hope that some of you had time to review them, especially the framework and guidance document prior to this session, so that review would inform your questions, and you'll have a chance to ask questions on anything that maybe didn't make sense or wasn't clear to you in that framework and guidance document. And that document contains all of the questions in the new plan. The NICED vision that you see on this slide is the vision that the Office of Educational Design and Technology has for the education of students in New York State. And all of our efforts in the area of educational technology are designed to support this vision. So what we're talking about with the technology plan and everything that we do in our office is to support this vision for our students. And this will be reflected in the technology plan this year, the plan that you'll be entering into the SED monitoring system. The goals that you see here, they have their origins in the 2000 USNY, or University of the State of New York, statewide technology plan. That plan was actually written in 2009 and published in 2010, but these goals have been updated based upon changes in the world of educational technology that have occurred in the 8 years since that plan was published. So in the new 2018-2021 technology plan that we're going to be working with this year. We are asking districts to show how their technology goals align with the NICEAD technology goals that are listed here. So a big part of the plan is going to be about your goals in the area of educational technology, and we'll be asking you to show how they align with primarily with one of these goals. You'll choose the goal that best meets your goal. Now, some of this, if you attended a prior webinar in 2016 or 2015, you would have heard some of this information before. We are guessing that most of you probably have a comprehensive technology plan in place already, and as you may know, many smaller districts do not. The purpose here, what we're doing, is to collect a baseline 3-year plan from all districts in the state. And part of the purpose is to streamline NICEAD data collection regarding how districts are utilizing technology to achieve their strategic goals. And in addition, the survey questions the plan questions are designed to provide enough data to be useful as state, federal, and other funding sources become available to you. And as you know, a technology plan is required by the Commissioner's Regulations Part 100.12. And that reads, to be eligible for aid for instructional computer hardware and technology equipment expenses pursuant to Education Law Section 753, school districts shall develop and maintain a plan in a format prescribed by the Commissioner for the use of the instructional computer technology equipment. And that's what this plan fulfills. And also, as probably all of you know, an approved technology plan is required to be on file with us when you apply for the technology portions of the Smart School Bond Act funds. They require that an approved technology plan is on file with state ed. So there are a variety of purposes behind the collection of this plan. To give you some background on where this new plan came from, because it is very different than the ones that we collected for the prior 3 years, we launched the Educational Technology Advisory Committee in the summer of 2017, and the ETAC, as we call it, was formed with a variety of people from diverse backgrounds in the education field. We have 27 members, and we had over 500 people fill out an application to be part of that committee. And we created a subcommittee for technology planning purposes, which began meeting in the early summer of last year. And it was that subcommittee that worked on the content of this plan. And the subcommittee members worked very diligently to create this plan. It was then reviewed by the full ETAC board and NICEAD management, and was approved for dissemination in late November. And as it notes here on the slide, we will continue to refine the tool and associated documentation based upon feedback from multiple stakeholders. We're going to have lots of resource documents that will be continually updated as we go through the year. The plan questions themselves will not change, but some of the guidance might be updated based on feedback because obviously we might provide guidance and we feel that it's really clear, but once people start reading it and who are new to the plan, it might not be as clear as we thought it was. So we'll continually update our guidance documents, including an FAQ. So we welcome your feedback, throughout the year on anything that's not clear and any suggestions for how we might bring more clarity to the process. Okay, so here we show our expected timeline for the plan. And when we say spring, fall, we're talking about spring 2018. And depending on what your timeline looks like, that could be winter. You could start in the winter if you want to. We anticipate opening up the portal for people to begin to work there sometime in January at this point. That's what we're looking at. So people might begin to do work on this plan at any time. Now that you have the questions that are in the plan, your timeline becomes your own. But this is our, rough sketch out of what the timeline would be. And we are available on an ongoing basis throughout the process. And we will be here to support you throughout that process. So it's important to note that when you populate the business portal, you don't actually formally submit the plan until NYSED staff reviews the content and lets you know that it is complete and able to be approved. And the reason that we don't want you to submit it right away before we've reviewed it is because it takes the superintendent to certify and submit it. And we don't really want districts to have to keep going back to their superintendent if there are changes requested. We like it, if possible, that the superintendent only has to certify and submit once, and I'm guessing you would prefer that too. So that's one little note there. And once the final version has been submitted via the SED monitoring system, then your plan will go through one final review. But if we've all reviewed it ahead of time, we expect it'll be approved at that point. And then there's an automated email that will be sent to those responsible for entering the data and certifying the plan, and that automated email message will acknowledge that the plan has been approved, if it has been approved. So there are no longer any formal letters going out telling districts that their plan has been approved. It is done via an automated email through the SED monitoring system. Now note that the final submit and certify, or certify and submit, has to be done by the superintendent based on their SED delegated, delegated account system permissions. Also, it's important to point out that this is a 3-year plan, and we are not going to require updates throughout the 3-year period, although they will be allowed if a district desired to submit an updated plan. So once you've submitted this plan and it's approved, you have an approved plan on file with SED for 3 years, and you would just need to, you'll let us know if you want to update it during that 3-year period. Normally, when people want to update a plan when it's not required by SED, they're usually updating it because they want it to align with the new Smart Schools Bond Act application. That's generally what's going on. Or the district is using this plan as their plan, and perhaps they don't have an additional comprehensive plan, and so they're posting this plan on their website, and if they want it to be current, then they want to come in and make some changes to it. So once a year, we'll make it available for changes. And the deadline, as you can see on this flow chart, is October 26th. So that's the final deadline to submit a plan to NYSED. As I said earlier, we understand that most of you probably already have a comprehensive technology plan that is much more comprehensive than the plans that we're putting forth here, and we hope that's the case. But the creation of this plan that we are putting forth is not intended to negate the need for a more comprehensive plan that includes additional information about a myriad of topics related to educational technology. And then one thing that we pointed out in prior years, which I think you're probably all aware, is that the instructional technology plan that we're collecting and the Smart Schools Bond Act application are not directly linked. In other words, this plan is not an application for funding at all, although many people use it to help them apply for other funding sources. And there are certain questions within our plan that the SSBA office requires to be aligned with their plan. And those are pointed out within the guidance where they have to be exactly aligned. Okay. Any questions at this point? John, no questions? Okay. All right. Okay, so this is a list of the types of the documentation that's available to assist you as you're preparing your plan. The framework and guidance document is the one that I sent with an email, and it lists all the questions and some guidance on how to complete the questions. Also, a link to the 100.12 regulation itself is going to be on the website. And then there's a guide to accessing the SED monitoring system. And this is particularly helpful for people who are new to the process and perhaps don't have their permissions yet. And it helps to show how you get permissions to actually go into the system and enter data. We also provide a link to the business portal. So you can get from the website resources page right to the portal. There'll be a technology plan FAQ, again, that will be continuously updated as needed. There's a flow chart, which I did send to you, which shows the flow chart of how the review process will work. So you should have received that. And there's the superintendent's memo, which, again, I included in the documentation that I sent you. And that was sent out to superintendents announcing the new plan and explaining a little bit about it. And then we're working on, we're almost finalized, a mini guide for the Big 5 districts. Now, some of these documents will only be on your special page, which is the link at the bottom of the page there. So the tech plan guide, mini guide for Big 5 districts, and the flow chart that's specifically linked to reviewing your plans, those are the ones that that we are going to have on this site. And now that's the site right there. And here's what's on there as of now. So you can see the memo is there, the framework and guidance is there, the SED monitoring, the links to the business portal. The tech plan FAQ is not there yet, or if it is, it shouldn't be because it's not updated yet. And the submission and review flow chart, I think we're still working on. Is that correct? I don't think it's there yet.
Right, it was different for the
yeah.
right?
Yeah, so that one's going to be put up there, and the tech plan mini guide, like I said, we're still working. So this page is only available to you. There's nothing on a navigation bar on the website, so that's why we provided that link for you in the PowerPoint, so please hang on to that. Okay. Now this is what it looks like when you log into the SED application business portal, and you should see the link up there where the arrow is pointing, where you will click on the SED monitoring and vendor performance system. That is how you enter into the portal to actually complete your plan. So if you don't see that, once you've logged into the application business portal, that means you don't have the right permissions, that you have not been assigned the permissions to SED monitoring and vendor performance system. So hopefully you all already have that. Like I said, to enter the survey, you'll click on SED monitoring. You will need to be granted permissions to the EdTech plan by your superintendent or delegated authority as outlined in the SEDAS mini guide. And if you do not have a username and password for the NYSED business portal, that's your first step. And also, if any of you have a new superintendent that hasn't been through this process before, please assure them that access to this application will not give anyone access to all of the district's data that resides in the portal. If you're provided with access to the EdTech plan in SED monitoring, that's all you'll see. You will not see everything that's in there about the district. We have in the past had some superintendents express concern about granting permissions to additional people when they were asked to do so for the plan, the purposes of this plan. So you could reassure them that that's by giving access to this plan, that's all that you will have is access to this plan and not all the data. This is the welcome page you'll see when you arrive at the survey. Note that you can view the survey questions and can print a blank survey or the completed survey or partially completed survey, and that's what you get right here, view, print, or print blank. If you wanted to share the work you have done so far with others who don't have access to the portal, you could create a PDF here, and that's one way that you can share with other people who perhaps don't have access. This is just, we wanted to show you a comparison of the survey in prior years compared to the survey now. And you can see that there are now 6 sections to the plan this year compared to 10 last year. And section 6 in this year's plan is fully optional, but what we encourage all districts to complete it. We'll explain that a little bit as we go along. But if you notice on the right-hand side, there was a lot of information that we were gathering about the technology, the software, the IT support, the infrastructure. And you may already be aware that a lot of that information is going to be collected next year in the BEDS, Basic Educational Data System, through SERS. So some of that numerical calculations and the device counts and things like that is going to be collected at the school level, and it will be collected through BEDS. And we're just beginning to work on the questions that will be included in BEDS. Those are not complete yet. So this part of your plan that you're going to be submitting that we're talking about today is more qualitative and more about goals and strategic planning and administrative management and aligning with the NICEAD technology initiatives than it is about device counts and infrastructure. So it is quite a big change from prior years. Any questions at this point before we actually go into the portal?
None yet.
None yet? Okay. So our purpose in visiting the portal is to familiarize you with the functionality of the electronic collection tool. If you have questions about how to complete a specific question or other content questions, then we can talk about that as we get to the end of the session, once we've gone through the portal. Just so you know, this particular application, as you're filling out the plan, has a very long window before it times out. So if you leave it open for a while, it should still be available to you when you return, but always make sure that it's still, quote, working. Like, you don't want to do work and then find out it wasn't saved because it timed out and you didn't realize. So as always, we encourage you to save your work and save it often as you're going through the portal. And you can also copy and paste from an existing document. One of the things we've done this year is improve the functionality of the portal. Our IT people work diligently to make it easier to use various formatting tools. So copying and pasting should be a lot easier than it used to be. And if you have trouble with it, with any functionality, you can always try entering the portal using a different browser or saving your content in a TXT file before copying and pasting. But any problems that you have with portal functionality should be reported to us at edtech@niced.gov so that we are aware of what the issues are. So that's really important. One of the things I wanted to point out is that there are numerous instances throughout the plan where if you answer a particular question as yes, sub-questions appear, but if you answer it no, you won't see those sub-questions. So you probably, if you had a chance to look through the framework and guidance document, you would have noticed that. Also, because of some of the limits of this system, the SED monitoring system, we don't have a way to block you from checking none and other. So there are some questions where you could end up checking both, and of course that would be an error if you check the none and other. So watch for that. We also don't have a way for the system to reject an answer if you have a typo that really comes, that it's like not even a word or whatever. So watch for that too. It's not like working in a regular like Microsoft program where it's going to give you a warning that something isn't really a word. And then just so you know, most questions are not optional and are required to be completed. So they'll have a little red asterisk if they're required. If you don't see an asterisk, that means that they're not required. Okay, so we'll... Okay. So now we need to get rid of this.
You can move it.
Oops.
Click that again.
Ew.
Exit full screen view.
Then you drag it that way.
Yeah, there we go. And I'm going to go in under an alias because we want to go in so that we see the view that you would see as a district. So that's why we're not logging in as ourselves. Okay, so like I said earlier when we did a screenshot, this is what you'll see when you log in. And this is where you're going to click to enter the system. So when you log in, you will see that you have, now when you log in, if you have access to other systems, they'll show up here too if you have access to other systems within SED monitoring. But if all you were provision to was Ed Tech, this is all you would see, and then you would click on this option, and then this shows you the surveys that are available, and you notice that we have 2018 here. So when you're going to be going to the 2018, when you log in in January or whenever you log in, it's not going to say Instructional Technology Plan copy. That's just an internal thing we had to use temporarily. But you will go to the 2018 cycle when you log in. So if you were to go to your outbox, you would be able to see your prior year's plan. But when you're in your inbox, you're going to see the 2018 plan, and that's what you're going to log into to start working in your plan. So you click on View, and it brings you to the first page of the survey. And so you can see on the first page, there's nothing about enrollment. You might remember that in prior years, there was enrollment information that was being automatically populated from our system. And so now we got rid of that because for reporting purposes, we can merge the data, enrollment data from your district into this data when we run reports later on when all the plans have been completed and submitted. So we didn't need to include that enrollment data within this plan anymore. So what you're entering here is the name of the district administrator that was responsible for entering this information. And this is basically the person we would want to be able to contact if we have questions about your plan. Notice that if you're working in the plan and you want to save and continue, click on the green button and it's going to move you to the next page. And you also can delete all the answers on a page if you needed to. And also notice it didn't let me move forward because I hadn't filled anything in. So, Section 2 is Strategic Technology Planning. Notice that it has a 1,000-word limit. That doesn't mean we're encouraging anyone to have a 1,000-word district mission statement, but in prior years we've had people say that there wasn't enough space for various types of answers. So this time around we tried to give people more space for answers. And you also notice we have the formatting tools. And those formatting tools will show up anytime there's a text box answer where you're going to be typing in text. So even sometimes where it doesn't seem to make sense that it's showing up, it has to show up because of the functionality limits in this system. So if you ever see the formatting bars and you're thinking, why are they here on such a short answer question? That's why, because they couldn't be removed. So here's we want the vision statement that guides instructional technology use in the district. Again, a 1,000-word limit. And just giving some guidance there of what's the point of that question. Well, we want to know what is your aspiration for the use of instructional technology in your district. And here is where we get into the goals, where we want you to start talking about the goals you have for instructional technology. So it's just making a statement when it says an effective method to create goals is utilizing the SMART approach. You don't have to use the SMART approach, but it was just making that suggestion, which is specific, measurable, attainable, I think, is it?
Yeah, accessible, I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and time, and it has to be within a time frame and reachable. So that's just a suggestion. That's not a requirement. But it is required that you list a minimum of 3 goals. And then if you want more goals, we allow for 4 or 5. But these are, the question themselves is not optional, but you can say no. You don't have to have a 4th or 5th goal, but you do have to answer the question. Now, here we want you to summarize the planning process, and this was in the prior plan. And so what we're talking about here is what are some of the stakeholder groups and what are the outcomes of the technology plan development meeting. And so what I think we didn't point this out here, I don't think directly, but I believe, and Joanne, correct me if I'm wrong, that the Smart Schools Bond Act application and the office that manages that, they really want to see that, you know, all the relevant stakeholders have been consulted.
Stakeholder groups, public hearings, public meetings with stakeholder groups is required.
Okay, so that's important to remember. So if you're if you're doing an SSBA application for technology-related items, they are going to be looking at that.
Or not technology-related items.
Well, all items.
All items.
Right. So the planning process should align with your strategic planning process. And your district level technology committee should definitely have multiple stakeholder participants. And then professional development, Smart Schools Bond Act people are that's very important to them as well. Even though, as you probably know, the Smart Schools Bond Act funds do not fund professional development. They want to make sure that the district is planning for the appropriate professional development plan to make the most of their technology-related expenditures to build the capacity of educators and administrators. So that's really important. And you can describe this plan in any way that you see fit. One of the things that some people have mentioned is that if you want to, you could have a table in here. We don't say you can't or that you should. It's up to you how you want to lay this out. But the professional development plan is really important, and it should be linked to your goals that you're sharing with us.
And the Smart Schools Bond application wants courses, professional development courses.
For their purposes.
For their purposes. So just something to keep in mind. So.
Yeah, we don't require it, but make sure that you do have that information available if you are going to be applying for a Smart Schools Bond Act fund. And then again, we want you to tell us about how the goals are going to be measured and evaluated during and after implementation. So we're looking at specific tools or metrics that'll be a part of the evaluation process. And in prior years, we've had people just say things like, you know, we'll meet twice a year to talk about the progress of the plan and things like that. Well, we're definitely looking for something more specific here, specific tools and metrics to see, you know, if the plan has actually successfully been implemented. So here you're going to have, you know, given us your goals, 3 to 5 goals, and then when we go back up to the next section, this is where we're going to get into the action plan. Okay, there we go. Go back to goal 1. So now we've got action plans, and these are broken into 1 page for each goal. If you have, you notice it just shows goal 1, 2, and 3 on the navigation bar, but if you actually give us 4 or 5 goals, a page will show up for each of those goals as well. And this section, as you can see, requires specific action steps that will be taken in order to reach the goal. So, you know, be thinking about this as you're completing your plan. You don't want to necessarily fill out part two with a bunch of goals that you don't already have action plans or action steps. So you're going to repeat the goal, and then you're going to, the next part is you're going to select the NYSED goal that best aligns with this goal. So as we talked about earlier, there are 5 different goals that come from NYSED's, from the statewide plan, basically as modified. So you're going to need to pick one of those 5 that most closely aligns with the district goal that you're talking about. Then you're going to check all that apply as far as who are the target student populations. So if it applies to all students, just click all students. But if it's specific to different types of students, different schools, middle school, high school, et cetera, then you would click on those different ones. And you can choose all that apply to a particular goal. And then you're going to list the specific action steps that correspond to this goal. This table is a little bit busy. All cells in the table must be populated. And if we're asking for 4 action steps for each goal. So if you have less than 4 action steps, you have to fill out every cell in the table, even if you have less than 4 action steps. So it gives you directions on what to do, entering NA into columns 2, 3, 4, and 7, and just choose the latest possible date in the date columns for all unneeded rows in the table. So the reason that you have to populate the entire table is just because of the limits of the functionality of this system, not because we wanted to give you more work to do or make it tricky. We would prefer that you didn't have to do this, but that's the way that's just the best we could do with the functionality of this system. So we've tried to make it as you know, at least cumbersome as possible, but in some cases it's a little difficult. Make sure that you do identify one responsible stakeholder for each of the action steps. That would be the person that's accountable to ensure that that action step is completed. And we're not looking for a name. You know, we're not going to hound somebody and try to find them and ask them any questions. We just want a title. So who is going to be the responsible stakeholder for each of the action steps? And if the list doesn't give you the right title, then you can write in other in the next column. And if you're not sure what the anticipated cost is, you could just fill anything in there. We put that was requested by people from the field that said people might want to put the anticipated cost in. That's not something that we're really going to be looking at, but it's there if you want to add it. And you notice there's the formatting bar for under action steps, your description of your action steps. So that couldn't be avoided. We had to have it in there. In your action step, you're going to be selecting one of these categories as an action step. And again, if what your action step doesn't fit in any of those categories, then you would choose other and you would describe it. So you have 4 action steps, and these are the tables that have to be completed. Now, if for some reason you need more than 4 action steps to complete a particular goal, if it's a really giant goal or it just needs a lot of different action steps, you can add more action steps, and that would be by completing this question. But if you don't need more than 4 action steps, you don't have to complete any of this question. You can leave it completely blank. And if you just wanted to add one more action step 5, you could do that and leave the rest of the table blank. So this is a totally optional table. It's only there if you really need it. And you could go all the way up to 8 action steps. Okay. Any questions on this section of the plan?
Not here yet.
No yet? No? Okay. All right, so then we'll go on to NYSED initiatives alignment. What? Changes of
Probably down, Oh, leave it, yeah.
Yeah, we don't have to. Okay, so Section 4, NICET initiative alignment. Here we're talking about, you know, how does it align with various groups that need to be served within the district. And it starts out with explaining how your technology will serve to support rigorous academic standards attainment and performance improvement. So what we really want people to think about here is, you know, we want to make sure that we're not talking about your technology for technology's sake. We want to know how it's actually going to improve the students' performance, and they'll be able to attain the academic standards of the state of New York and whatever additional academic standards you set for yourselves and your district. So that's what the technology use is all about, and this is where we want you to explain to us how they align. This next section is about students with disabilities. And in the prior plan, we had 2 questions, and they were kind of similar, so people ended up giving similar answers to the 2 different questions. This question about students with disabilities is talking about making sure that they can, students with disabilities can have access to and participate in the general curriculum, and we want to know how instruction is differentiated for them using technology to support their individualized learning needs. So we're talking here about the intentional application of technologies and strategies that are specifically used for students with disabilities. So an example would be, if you had a one-to-one program, you would describe how the devices are specifically used when instructing students with disabilities, not simply that they have access to the same devices as all students. So you want to address the various technologies and instructional strategies that are used for students with disabilities. This next question is also about students with disabilities, and so here is the checkbox, and these are, you can check anything that applies to the district, or you can check other, and then you can fill in the blank with the other and explain what it is. And it says, if you notice at the bottom here, it says, if the district files or has filed a Smart Schools investment plan, this response must align with the district's response to any related questions in the SSIP. So the SSIP is going to be asking you for information about serving the needs of students with disabilities. So make sure that the answer in that SSIP application, if you have one, matches what you say here. So obviously, we don't expect you to be checking, you know, all of these, and if none of them apply, then you would check others. And if you check other, another sub-question will pop up that you can answer. And here, again, Smart Schools Investment Plan focused on professional development. We want you to select the professional development topics that might be offered to teachers of students with disabilities that will enable them to differentiate learning. And so we want you to check all that might apply here of training that might be provided or professional development to teachers who are teaching students with disabilities. And again, if none of these match up with what you're doing, you can check other and provide us with more information. And perhaps if you're not doing PD specifically to teachers of students with disabilities, maybe this will give you some good ideas on some topics that might be helpful for your teachers. Now, the next series of questions are about students, the needs of student English language learners and multilingual learners to make sure that they have equitable access to instruction materials and assessments. And again, there's a checklist of things that you might be doing with technology related to ELLs and multilingual learners. So this is not, you know, this list is not necessarily everything that you might possibly be doing. So again, you can check other, or you can check multiple of these and check other and fill us in on what you're doing to use technology to help English language learners. And this is, of course, all these questions are at the district level. So Now this question is a yes or no question, stating that your plan either does or does not address the needs of English language learners to ensure equitable access to instruction materials and assessments in multiple languages. So that's the key part of that question. So if you check yes, then you're going to be checking one of the responses below. And the response to 5 most spoken languages, see, the answers are yes, we provide instruction in the 5 most spoken languages in the district, in the 10 most spoken languages, in the 15 most spoken languages. Since this is specifically a webinar for Big 5 districts, you probably do have that many different languages where you would have to provide equitable access in multiple languages, and you might have this many. But for smaller districts, we made this response so that if it says 5 most spoken languages, it would also include districts with 1 to 5 spoken languages, because there are some districts where there are no multilingual learners way up, you know, in the rural areas sometimes. And if your response was other in 6A, then you would explain here what you meant. And question 7, this is again a list of professional development that might be offered to teachers of English language learners. So you would check any that apply, and also other if you're providing other professional development. And again, this is important that this one aligns with Smart Schools Bond Act applications as well. And then this last question is about using instructional technology to facilitate culturally responsive instruction and learning environments. And just like the other questions, there's check boxes. And then you would choose other if what you are doing to facilitate culturally responsive instruction is different than what we've listed here. And then you could answer that the district does not use instructional technology to facilitate culturally responsive instruction. So we've got, I think, a fairly comprehensive list of options here that probably some of them will apply. And again, if you check other, then the sub-question comes up and you would explain it here. Any questions on this section of the plan? No? Okay, administrative management. This is the last required section of the plan. And you notice that message pops up because I haven't saved any information. I haven't answered any questions, so that's why that message keeps popping up. Administrative management plan includes staffing plans, and we are looking for full-time equivalent for these 3 categories of staff. And it's as of the plan submission date, the full-time equivalent count of all staff whose primary responsibility is delivering technology integration training and support or technical support for teachers. And we want you to enter the full-time equivalent for each title, even if it is 0. So you may have someone that does instructional support and technical support. So if they split their time half and half, then they would be 0.5 FTE in one and 0.5 FTE in another. You never want any one individual person to be counted as more than 1.0 FTE. And contractors should not be included unless they are paid as an FTE. And we do have additional guidance available for examples of job titles in each of these 3 categories. That was in our framework and guidance document, if you're not sure who falls under leadership, instructional support, and technical support. Investment plan. Let's see, this year it's a little bit different. Let's see, what did we change this year? We changed the list of anticipated items or service. We made it into categories and not as specific. So this is what your choices will be. for anticipated item or service for your investment plan. And the same as last year, we're looking for funding sources, not funding mechanisms. And so here are your choices, and again, there's others. And the reason NA is an option there is if you were not going to fill out, you know, the entire table, then you can say NA if you're not going to have that many items. Make sure that if you choose other, that you identify what that other is in the second column. And the rest of this is the same as last year. Make sure that if you choose other funding source, you do tell us what it is. I would say that was a fairly common issue with tech plans. Would you say, John, that you reviewed? Sometimes people would check other and then not explain what it was. So make sure that if you check other, you do explain what it is. And then this next part of the plan, this was a question in the prior plans. Have you provided for the loan of instructional computer hardware to students legally attending non-public schools? And that is a requirement of Ed Law Section 754. And the only way you can select not applicable is if there are no non-public schools in your district, which given the audience we're talking to, that's probably not too likely. So that's probably not going to be able to say not applicable. And then we want to know if you have a public website, which I'm sure you do. And then we want to know whether or not you have assigned a specific person with the responsibility for information security. And if your answer is yes, then you would give us that person's title, not their name, but their title. And then the next question is, please indicate whether or not the district has assigned a specific person with responsibility for information privacy. Same thing, you would give us their title, not their name. And these questions are coming from our Chief Privacy Officer. That's the perspective that these questions are coming from. So we're trying to get a picture of how this is being handled throughout the state, how these issues are being handled by districts. So that's what it is. It's more for, you know, data aggregation than it is for individual districts, you know, scrutinizing individual districts. That's not the point. So it's the information security and information privacy, which, you know, can be two different things. Information security is more about, you know, not sharing your passwords and things like that. And information privacy is more about, you know, as we know, the student data privacy issues that have come up in recent years. Okay. Has a district-wide information security and or privacy audit ever been performed in the district? So that is yes or no, and if it's yes, then we would ask how often, and you would select how often that has happened. And you would indicate whether the audits were performed by an independent third-party contractor, or some were, some, you know, no, yes, or some. This question is talking about, do you have a mechanism for educating minors about appropriate online behavior, including how they interact with other individuals on social networking? So that's a yes or no question. And again, I would guess that you all do. And then the same question is about educating minors about cyberbullying. Now, John, I have a question. I'm just talking to John here in our office. Should there be other responses popping up there when you hit say yes?
No, I think they just want to know.
They just want a yes or no, okay. And same thing here. Oh, now here's where it gets different. Those first two questions are just a yes or no, but this one, do you have an internet safety policy? You can answer yes, and I will upload the policy. In other words, upload it to this plan. yes, and I will provide you with a URL to the policy, or no, we don't have such a policy. Now, if you were to provide the URL, make sure that that's a URL that goes directly to the policy, and check it before you submit the plan so it actually goes where it's supposed to go. Because we've had districts give us the URL to their home page, and then we can't find the policy. Or they provide us with a link, but it's broken. So and it's broken like immediately after they gave it to us because we checked the plan. So just make sure that the URL is working and that it goes directly to the policy. Same thing for a cyberbullying policy. Either upload the policy, provide a URL, or tell us that you don't have such a policy. And the same thing with the Parents' Bill of Rights for data privacy and security. So we're either looking for a URL, a upload to the plan, or just a no answer. Next one, the same thing. Do you have an information breach policy that addresses the district's planned response to an information breach? And again, you would upload the policy, give us the URL, or just let us know that you don't have that plan as of now. And then we need a direct link to your technology plan, or if you don't have a separate comprehensive technology plan, you're going to use this one, you would want a link to a copy of this plan, this approved plan that's been posted on your website. So that's what we're looking for here is a link to wherever your plan is posted on your website. So that concludes this section. Any questions on this section of the plan?
None yet.
None yet? Okay. So now the next section is it's totally optional. And what we're doing is we're trying to find ways to facilitate the sharing of innovative educational technology projects and practices. Hopefully you've all signed up to be on our listserv and you're receiving our newsletter. We're putting out a newsletter that we're trying to do it monthly, but it won't always be exactly monthly. Our next one's coming out in early January, and it shares innovative projects that districts are working on. People from districts submit articles about their innovative educational technology projects, or articles about the importance of technology planning. Lots of different articles have been submitted already. So we're doing that to try to share innovative practices amongst districts in New York State. But this is another way that we're trying to help people share, and that is that if you wanted to share information with other districts based on the implementation of educational technology programs that you have implemented in your district, you would check them in this optional page here, and they have to be, we would suggest that they've already been implemented for at least 2 years at a building or district level, and you could just check the various topics where you have innovative programs. And then once you check whichever topics you feel you would like to share with other districts, then you would fill in the contact information. Now, question 2 is if you want one contact point for all innovative programs that you checked in question 1. So let's say you checked 4 different innovative technology programs in question 1, and you want to tell us the name of one person that could be contacted about those programs. You would fill out question number 2, and then you would just check which innovative program that they are available to talk to people about. But if you wanted to provide us with multiple contact points, like one contact point for each program that you were sharing, then you would fill out question 3. And again, this is a reflection of the limitations of our system. We would have liked to have this be a little less cumbersome, but this was the best we could do to gather the information. So we're not going to publish this information anywhere, but we're going to gather it in an organized manner. And then if districts, would like to find out about a particular topic, like let's say that district is really looking for more information on digital citizenship. I know at least one of your districts has a really, good program on digital citizenship that they shared with us. Then if you check that and then someone calls us up and says, I know you're collecting this information on people doing innovative things. I'm looking for somebody that's done some work in digital citizenship, and we would look it up in our spreadsheet that where we'll keep this information, and then we would give that person your contact information. So filling out this section and giving us your contact information tells us that you're willing to be contacted by other districts. It's not going to be published on the website or anything else. It's going to be maintained here at SED, and then will be available to districts to call in or email us, contact us looking for people who can share with them their innovative programming. And again, another way to share your innovative programming is to submit a newsletter article. And that way it will be sent to all the people on our listserv, and it'll be published on our website. And John, that's with us here at the webinar, he is the person that is in charge of that newsletter. So he welcomes your newsletter articles. And they can be submitted at any time. We review them once a month, and we try to put them together in some kind of a theme. So you might submit an article and maybe it won't go in immediately, but it might come at a later date when it matches the theme that we're trying to talk about in that month. So that's how it works. We don't want articles for the newsletter that are about a special event or anything like that. It's about an ongoing program, just like this question is. So that's a summary of everything that we are doing inside the portal. Do we have any questions about what we just went over of all the different questions? I know it might be a little overwhelming the first time you see it. Anybody have any questions?
None yet.
None yet? Okay.
Give them a minute maybe to write questions.
Yeah. Well, we're not going anywhere yet. We got a few more slides. So these are the steps to submit your plan like we talked about before. You're going to enter your data into the plan within the portal without submitting it. Let us know it's in there, because we don't get a notification that it's in there until it's been submitted. So if it's in there but not submitted, which is what we want you to do, contact us and let us know that it's in there so that we can go in and review it. And we're more than happy to review it at any point. You could have us review it in very, brand new draft format. You can send us a PDF. You can send us information you haven't even put into the portal yet. However you want to share it, we're happy to give you feedback at any point. And then we'll review it with you, and then your final submission to certify and submit that the superintendent sends in comes in by October 26th. And this is our contact information. That's our main phone number, our email address, and this is the EdTech review team. So if you call in for us, you can ask for any of us. And probably when we get closer to the review time, we'll probably be assigned specific districts like we have been in the past. But any of the three of us can always, help you and answer your questions at any given point. Any questions from anyone? You can unmute yourself, speak, chat. Nope. Well, we thank you for being here today, and the recording of this webinar will be on the special page that we provided for you, and we welcome your questions and calls at any time going forward, and we really appreciate you being here, and we look forward to working with you. We've worked with some of you in the past, and we look forward to working with you again. So we hope you have a great holiday season, and we'll be around. Give us a call. Thanks.